There's this window now, who knows how long it will last. If you want to go and do something like this, it's now.
New Zealand's Jon Nabbs as he attempts to run across Canada.
At the moment, running about 45 to 50 kilometers a day.
The real question is why?
So this was the morning after Mum had just got diagnosed. Dad had just passed away like 2 months before. Man, that stage 4 terminal brain cancer. She's got 4 months to live. Just something just switched inside my head and it's never gone back. And a revelation or an indication that the highest value I had at that time was a dementia. And probably also mixed in with just wanting to make the most of time.
Were you scared?
No, the opposite. Because it was just like, what am I scared of?
Happy to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Two Fries podcast, aka the #1 podcast in Winnipeg, where we document the rise and stardom of the talents that are in Winnipeg, that are going through Winnipeg, and the stories around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a fellow Kiwi. For anyone, the viewers know that I am from New Zealand as well, and today we have a fellow Kiwi who's doing something amazing in Canada. He is trenching, he is running, and he's paving the way and making awareness for cancer research. Please welcome Jon Nabbs.
Thanks, man.
No worries, no worries. I know we don't have a giant studio audience, but welcome to the show. Welcome to Winnipeg, first of all.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I have to ask, because I'm sure everybody in Winnipeg, what's it like being in Winnipeg?
It's awesome. I've only been in the city 36 hours because I'm sort of running through, don't get to stop for very long, but man, it's been cool. The people here have been so welcoming and friendly, and the running community specifically. Like I was out with 2 different running groups today. Yeah, man, there's just an awesome spirit here. There's just the energy, the community. Like everyone loves it. It's really cool. It's the best running community I've seen in Canada.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah. So I ran the marathon back in the summer, and the worst thing I ever did, to be honest. To be honest with you, I'm not a runner. Never really was. But I put it on my New Year's resolution list, and I'm like, I'm gonna run. Yeah. And I trained for it, and that's when I got to know a little bit about the community. But friendly Manitoba, we try. Yeah. We're trying our best.
Very cool.
You're not new to running, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm sure the first question everyone asks you is, what are you doing? What are you doing, my friend?
So, yeah, running across Canada, dressed as Superman. This is sort of like my, a bit more casual attire. I've normally got like the full body Superman costume, full regalia, and doing the run across Canada without a support team, just pushing everything I've got in a baby stroller, my tent, my camping equipment, my food, everything. And at the moment, running about 45 to 50 kilometers a day, and stopping along the way at children's hospitals, specifically the cancer wards, where the kids are sitting there sort of, waiting for chemo. They sit around for days or weeks at a time, bored out of their brains while they're waiting for chemo. And going in there and visiting them, sharing the journey with them, just basically trying to put some smiles on some faces and give them a good time and perhaps make them forget about what they're going through just for a few minutes. And at the same time, raising funds for Childhood Cancer Canada and the Child Cancer Foundation of New Zealand, and it's fantastic. I'm so stoked to be doing it in Canada. I'm so I believe so strongly now that I picked the right country to come and do. Wow. The society here is so beautiful. The country itself is so beautiful. And as of today, I've just ticked over the 5,000th kilometre run, and also we've just ticked over $30,000 raised. So. Wow. Winnipeg is really turning into a really cool moment on this whole trip. A couple of cool milestones and just fantastic environment.
Just hearing that is like giving me chills because, our motto for this podcast and since high school and since I was young has always been spread love. And we've been spreading love, and we've been trying to, whether it's a piece of content, whether that's, seeing someone on the street, just the spreading the love is, and hearing that from you and someone who's making like news all across the world is that's very it gives me chills. Like I'm grateful to be able to talking with you here, and I want you to know that I respect you a lot for that. We did the what, right? You're running across. The real question is why.
Why? Yeah, absolutely. I thought about this a lot before coming and doing it to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons, because obviously it's an enormous challenge. I think 4 people in history have run across Canada without the entourage and the support vehicle and the team and whatnot. So it's not been done much before. It's a pretty inhospitable environment to go across. So I thought about it a lot, wanted to make sure that when the going got tough, I would have already sorted in the back of my mind the real reasons I was doing it, because obviously it's a lot of fun when you're meeting lots of people and whatnot. And the place I landed for that was the service to other people. In this particular form, it's raising money for kids with cancer, and it's also raising money towards cancer research specifically for pediatric oncology for child cancer, and that element of service to the whole run, it's really sustaining. I actually had an opportunity start of last year to go. I went and walked the length of New Zealand. There's a trail, if you've heard of the Appalachian Trail in the United States. We've got a similar one in New Zealand. It goes from Cape Reinga all the way to Bluff, 3,000 Ks. It's magic. It just goes. It's not the same as this trip, through the roads in the cities and big fundraiser, Superman suit. There's none of that. It's essentially a 3,000 kilometer long hike.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's beautiful. So I did that. And I got the opportunity on that trip. Like, I wanted to be very deliberate because I knew it was going to take me like 5 months. I didn't take any devices. I just took my paper diary and an old Nokia clicky button phone.
Yeah.
It was magic, man. I was so happy. But I wanted to be very deliberate about using that 5 months, not just to go for a good time, but to, I don't know, do a bit of a check-in, I suppose, a values, direction of life, because my life had changed a lot in the time immediately prior to that. So sort of 3 years ago, both my folks that passed away from cancer. And so that, a little bit more directly, that's also very much a motive for this. That's why I specifically chose the course, Cancer Research and Childhood Cancer Canada. But so I went and did this walk, 5 months, and I did a lot of thinking during it, also a lot of reading. I had a couple of my favourite authors / tutors, if you could want to call them that I was reading a lot of, some interesting exercises I wanted to do in terms of sort of personal development. Used that time on the trail to do them, and got the opportunity to just reset things, I suppose. And so, this is what I've been doing with my life. This is what I think my values are when I really sort of get introspective about it. Sort of look back through what I'd done the last few years, and it's very revealing, because it's like, well, my actions have confirmed that, this one here, like family, that seems to be true from my actions. But this one here, maybe, I don't know, for example, whatever other value, maybe that one, I haven't really been living out that value so much. And so I just used that time, went through that process, and said, okay, well, what do I want that picture to look like? And for me, a big one that I was very clear on was service, and I wanted to essentially build a life around that as a core value. And another one was just continuing sort of adventure to the biggest degree that I could, although not as important as service, but still lots of fun. And starting from that space, I think service is a good value to build a life around. There are lots of good ones you can choose. There are also lots of bad ones you can choose. And I think if you choose a good set of core values, it sees you very right.
Yeah.
And you still have a lot of life's not going to be without problems, obviously, but having based a direction around a well chosen set of core values, it makes the problems better. So I still have to get out every day and run 50Ks on a semi-broken body, and it's very painful, but because I know it's in service of kids, and I've got hospital visits coming up in BC and what have you, and it's all for Child Against Canada, and it inspires these people I see along the way. It's almost you almost want that struggle, because it's almost like just a sacrifice in service of something that I really care deeply about. So it's very sustaining in that way.
Yeah, the purpose is there. You have a purpose and the reason you're going. I want to break that story down a little bit more. So let's go back to before. Like, what were you doing before everything? Like, what was your life like in New Zealand? You said you grew up in Hamilton. What did life look like in Hamilton?
So pre, like, mum and dad getting sick. So I was actually living in Germany when we got Dad's diagnosis.
Okay.
I moved there just because I wanted to learn the language.
Nice.
I was working on my laptop making websites. But then Dad's diagnosis came in, and I moved home just to help. This was right before COVID. So Dad, I went home November 19. Dad died January 2020. COVID, we locked down March 2020.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was coming home just for a couple of months, and I left my stuff in boxes back in Germany.
Yeah.
That couple of months turned into 2.5 years.
Oh no.
And I sort of was a COVID refugee, but in my own country. I couldn't go back to where I wanted to go.
Okay, yeah. Oh no.
And so during that 2.5 years, life looked like I was farming, dairy farming, as is really common in New Zealand.
A lot of sheep.
Yeah, a lot of sheep. Waikato, where I'm from, a lot of cows.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. Really neat. If you were to ask me, like, what do you do? I've been chopping and changing jobs the last few years, but I'd probably identify it like farmer.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it was a good job to do, actually, because during that time, like a couple of months after Dad passed, Mum got diagnosed. So you'd do the morning milk of the cows and then the afternoon one, but you had like 5 hours off in the middle of the day. So I could go and hang out with Mum or do whatever needed to be doing. But yeah, and before that time in Germany, because I was only there for a little bit before Dad got diagnosed, for a couple of months even. So before leaving New Zealand, also farming. I used to run a big farming corporate in New Zealand, a big pig farm essentially.
Wow. And so you go from, farming in Germany, living life, you come home, and you get this tragic news. Are you comfortable sharing?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know if there's anything, you're not comfortable sharing. What was it like receiving the news?
Just awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Yeah.
And then you go back home and life is completely different, right, than it was before.
Yeah.
My mom has multiple sclerosis, so getting that news wasn't amazing. It was not a good feeling. But then after the death, what was going through your mind, like?
After Mum or Dad or both, I suppose.
Both, yeah.
In hindsight, like, I can sort of see with a bit more clarity now that I very much went through the stages of grief. The morning, because Dad got diagnosed, then passed away, and then we had this couple of month period where we thought we were moving forward again, even though the world was going into lockdown, which was just this big weird thing. And then we were in level 4 lockdown, in our first lockdown, and then like 3 weeks into it, Mum got diagnosed. And man, that day, I remember waking up the next morning, and you know how they say one of the stages of grief, there's like denial, and then after that, one of the next stages is bargaining, all these other things like anger until you get to before acceptance. I was so lucid of what was happening, but it was just it was happening nonetheless. Like I went for a run that next morning, which is sort of what I do for a bit of headspace or whatever. I remember I was running down the street in Hamilton, and I was so strongly into bargaining mode. Like I just remember talking like
talking to yourself, saying,
wow. So this was the morning after Mum had just got diagnosed. Dad had just passed away like 2 months before. Wake up that morning, go for a run. I'm just like, is this just a video game or some sick joke or a nightmare? For those few days, like every morning you wake up, you're just like, that couple of seconds after you wake up, you're like, please let it have been a dream. And then you wake up and you realize it's not, and it's just reality just sucks. And anyway, that run that next morning, I remember the street I was on, just running along, like, I wasn't talking to myself, I was essentially talking to God or whoever was there, just saying like, don't let this happen. Like, I'll do whatever. I'll be the most grateful, best human that's ever walked around, you know, I'll do whatever, so just don't make this happen.
And then you chose to channel that into running, and was that the catalyst to do the 3,000?
Nah.
Like, how long did it take after that point to get to, okay, I'm gonna go and do these feats of?
It was probably a good year later. Like that bargaining stage. And things moved forward. Mum's cancer progressed and she passed away, and then we still had this period. It was made so complex because after that, one of the things, like the natural thing you want to do and you need to do is move forward. And trying to go through that process when the world's in lockdown, that sucked. And so there was probably this like year-long period where I was just still doing the farming, and I suppose I tried to move forward in other ways. Actually, looking back now, it's pretty obvious. I definitely tried to move forward. Like,
What'd you do?
I come from a very sporting family and a very sort of meat and potatoes Kiwi family, like, and I in that time, because the government was giving signals that the borders might open in a few months down the line or a year down the line, sort of thing. Because New Zealand's approach to lockdown was just close the borders. Because that works when you're an island. And that's pretty good.
That's a good strategy.
So they were saying they're putting out wee signals. We might open the borders in 8 months, whatever. And so I was thinking, I'll use that time. And what I did was I signed up for salsa dancing.
Okay.
And it was so different to anything I'd ever done or anything anyone in my family had ever done. And I was like, I'm so on board for this. Like, I want growth. If I can't get it by traveling and seeing other cultures and learning and language and stuff, I'll get it right here in the middle of like traditional conservative Hamilton. And get going with some salsa, get moving the hips. But I jumped in full noise. Like, I'd never done it before. Oh man, how much baptism by fire it was. We could go into later, but it was crazy. But never done it before, never done anything like it before, and went along to the first session just on like a Wednesday night after work for like an hour. Really enjoyed it, and then I went along like the next, maybe like on the Friday or something, a couple of days later. Another session, really enjoyed it, and I was like, right, in for a penny, in for a pound. Went up to the instructor afterwards, just introduced myself, had a chat, said I'm really enjoying the class. I'd love to do more than just like 2 sessions a week. I want to advance really quickly. And she's like, she sort of looks me up and down. And she's like, we've got a salsa competition coming up, a full noise competition. You know, like glittery suit, like the plunging neckline on your collar shirt that comes down to like here, sort of thing. She's like, we've got one of those competitions coming up in like 3 months. Professional salsa comp. One of our dudes that is supposed to take part, who's one of the bigger guys, he does lots of the lifts with the ladies. He's injured, he just had to pull out. She's like, how much time do you have? How keen are you? And I was like, sign me up. She's like, okay, we're gonna work with you like most nights after work for like an hour. She's a pro dancer, pro teacher. And I was like, yeah, I'm on board, full noise. So I had her services for like hours and hours a week. So just got to dive into this fantastic experience.
That's amazing.
Like, I still can't say I can do like, I know like a couple of basic steps, but like we had so little time and we had to get me from like novice to capable competition level in like 3 months that we didn't actually do the any like foundational work. It was just like, here's the routine we're going to be doing at the competition on the day. We'll just learn that. So I can't actually dance salsa. I can just do this one routine. Like,
very well, though.
Pretty good, yeah.
That's awesome. I can just imagine you now. I'm looking at you in your Superman costume.
And if anyone wants to do any divergence, because the routine's pretty complex. We do like spins, and it's a lot more than spins. It's full noise. But if we wanted, someone's like, let's just do like a basic step. I would literally be like deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know what that is.
Is there a video of this competition? Can I find this on the internet somewhere?
Oh, there's not. So I didn't actually get to do it, unfortunately, because I got like a long way along that path, and then Delta came in. Delta came to New Zealand, and so the comp got pushed back, but it got pushed back to beyond like December, which is when I already wanted to be walking on that trail. So I had to choose. I chose trail.
Were you like eyeing the trail for a while? Like
So this is perhaps a more probably like telling answer to your earlier question. So in terms of what that headspace was like, and that transition from like that grieving to actually like, okay, how did we start doing adventures? So like, it's a huge lesson, and it's totally altered the course of my life. And I think it's one of the most profound and liberating things I've ever learned. So like, Dad had passed away. COVID was upon us, newsreels of people all around the world passing away. Mum had passed away. This was all in the space of a couple of months. And then an old girlfriend that I used to be with, she came around to visit. This is just after Mum had passed away. And there was this couple we used to hang out with when her and I were together. And they were a couple of years older than us. So her and I, we would have been like 29. This couple would have been like, 32, 33. Hadn't seen her for a few years, so she comes around to visit. So she came around to visit, and she says, Courtney, and Tessa were this couple's name. Ex-girlfriend comes around to visit. She says, have you heard about Tess? I said, no. What's going on with her? And she says, she's just been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal brain cancer. She's got 4 months to live. She's 34 years old at this point, 2 kids under 4. And this is in the wake of all this other death I had just seen, as I was mentioning before. And just something just switched inside my head, and it's never gone back. And I had already in the past sort of dreamed, and even a couple of times gone so far as like made a bit of a plan for walking the Te Araroa Trail. Because for me it was just the most wonderful experience I could possibly think of.
Uh-huh.
But it was, I always shied away from it. It was always just like this dream. It's like, oh, you think you do it, but it's
I'll
like,
do it later. Yeah.
yeah.
When the time is right.
And then upon hearing that, like the first thought that went through my head was just like, why on earth am I not walking the Te Araroa Trail right now? And there was no answer. And like a couple of days later, I booked myself a flight up to the top of the country, booked myself a ticket to start doing the Te Araroa Trail, and it was just that, to me, that experience there, that why am I not doing the Te Araroa Trail? That question, that the whole experience there with all those people passing away in front of me, that was, I look at that as being sort of like a, sort of like an expose, or sort of like shining a light on values. And to me, in that moment, after everything I'd been through in the time leading up to that, with being locked down, with seeing family members pass away, I look at that instant, automatic, don't even have to think about it, reaction and desire to go and walk the Te Araroa Trail as being a revelation or an indication that the highest value I had at that time was adventure. And probably also mixed in with just wanting to make the most of my time, of life, essentially. Because I had been locked down, I'd been inside for months, and because I was losing family members left, right and centre around me. And it was just like, I might wake up tomorrow and have a diagnosis too. And so when I just got to that point where enough people were passing away around me that it was just like so clear. And there was, it's one of the more profound things I think I've ever learned. It was like the need for courage and to go and do something like that, to like that big goal that I had been chasing, like whether it was walking the length of New Zealand or what, it could have been anything. And up until that point, there was always just like, oh no, that's something other people do. It's just a dream or a plan, or the need for courage to overcome those things. It just falls away in the face of death. Like, as morbid as that sounds and uncomfortable as it might make some people feel, I suppose, but like, if you can look at that and you can take that experience in like a really constructive way too. And if you like, not, rather than looking at it morbidly or like being scared of the fact that you're going to die, I had that experience, and it sort of, I looked at it, I used it a bit more positively, and it was like, this is the real deal. This is going to happen, and like.
Were you scared?
To go and do the trail?
No, like after, like before that switch happened of going
to
do the trail.
The opposite. Because it was just like, what am I scared of? Like, because before, the reason I'm sort of belaboring this point is because the decision to go and walk the trail in New Zealand very much led to coming and running across Canada.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest like step change in any of like the direction of my last few years was that one. It wasn't the decision like after New Zealand to go and do Canada. That was quite continuous.
Yeah.
Whereas I wasn't scared. It was the opposite. It was just like when I was literally like, okay, just seen Dad's death, just seen Mum's death. Now, Tess, friend, 2 years older than me, prime of her life, healthy as, stage 4 diagnosis. It's not stage 2. It's not, okay, there's some chemo, you might recover. It's like, boom, stage 4, nothing we can do. It's like, what is there to be scared of? There's nothing. It's like, yeah. It's like, this is this dream I've had. It's like, why am I not pursuing it again? Like, there is no reason. It's like, it just became so clear. It was like, just go and do it.
When you started the trail, what was that like? Was that
I was jubilant, man. I was like skipping down the beach. It was one of the happier days of my life, man. It was.
Oh my God.
It was wonderful. So I met a person. There's normally like 3,000 people per year that do that trail. They come from all around the world.
Yeah.
The weather window, you sort of have to start in like October, November for the weather window to work to make sure you get to Bluff without winter hitting you.
Yeah.
So you got maybe like, I don't know, 90-day window, let's say 3 months.
Yeah.
About 3,000 people do it a year. So you get about 30 people per day starting. And the campsites are sort of evenly spaced. So like you're not really gonna start on day one and get through to the second campsite. You pretty much start there, walk your 30 Ks, get to the first campsite. So what that means is basically every day there's pretty much 30 new people at the first campsite. And at the second campsite, and that's sort of like your trail family. And you meet them and you go down the trail with them. Because of COVID, there weren't 3,000, there's like 50 or something. And I started late in the year. I didn't start until early December, and there's pretty much no one around. We checked like the DOC, Department of Conservation intentions books, which is where people write down where they're going and how many people in their party. You can see who's been through, and there's hardly anyone. But on the day I started, literally like at the Kirikiri, the small town way up the north of New Zealand, I landed into the Bay of Islands airport up there, which is tiny, might as well be like a farm shed. And there was this other person getting off that plane with a big hiking pack on. And if you're at Bay of Islands airport in like early December with a hiking pack on, like there's only one thing you're doing. So I went up to her and I was like, "You know the TA, the Te Araroa?" And she's like, "Yeah." And just the fact that you actually meet someone else that's doing it at that in that year was so low, but then beyond that we got on so well. We ended up becoming a couple, and we were just mates for a long time. Like for months, we just walked the trail next to each other and built this beautiful friendship. And afterwards moved over to Austria together, which is where I was living before I came here to Canada. And we chatted about this as well when we were walking on the trail actually, but we put a lot of the quality and strength of our friendship down to shared values. Like the fact that, like simply by virtue of being there doing something like that, it's already sort of like a filtering mechanism. Like you're going to meet people that want to make the most of life. You're not going to meet, a couch potato or whatever.
Exactly,
And I give a lot of credence to that too.
And then, so you just walked every day?
Yeah, man, 148 days walking. It was magic.
Yeah. What was the highlight of that? Like, if you could name one moment or a story from that. So you said you journaled, right? Like you journaled every day?
It probably took me about 2 months to really get going. The first probably month was baptism by fire, just hard, physical hard. Probably took me about 2 months to really get into it. But after that, largely every day.
And then what are you writing? What are you in your journals?
Sometimes it's just a recount of the events of the day. If there's nothing, if you're not inspired, if I am not inspired by something I really want to get down, it'll just be this happened, this happened. And even that is really constructive because, like what I noticed with my friend Sarah, the one I was walking with, she had this insane memory about things that had happened on the trail. So, like for example, on day 90, we might be chatting about something that happened. In my mind, I'm like, oh, that happened way back when we were up Northmore. She's like, that was on day 17, and it was like just after we had walked down that little Sir Edmund Hillary trail coming through this tiny town, and we saw that guy Jeff, and I'm like, how do you remember that? what I found out is because she journals. She's not just on the trail, like general everyday life. She's a big time journaler. And she's like, yeah, because you're basically like reinforcing the memory
100%.
every time you write. But journaling has got so many good benefits, but personal, internal benefits. Like like if you're doing something as cool, wonderful, awesome as a big hike like that, like yeah, you're basically locking in your memories so you can like relive them later. Not only are you creating a book so you can read the memory later and relive it, but you're also reinforcing just the memory inside your own head better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was super impressed by her when I saw that. And then, but I would also journal, like that's what I take, she's very much like a journaling role model for me. A lot of the time I would follow her lead if I didn't know what I had nothing else I wanted to put down. But also a lot of the time, it would just be thoughts I wanted to work through. Especially with hiking, you've got so much free time, you've got so much good headspace, and like as I said, I didn't take a device. So just a lot of solitude. I'm an introverted dude. Love people's company. Love going out to a bar, introducing myself to people. Not really to a bar, but I say that as sort of an analogy for like love being social. But when it comes time to recharge, definitely do that in solitude, sort of at home on the couch with a book. So walking the trail, all that time hiking alone, just cool stuff would pop up, or thoughts, or like things I wanted to, I don't know, things I wanted to work through perhaps, and I could use the journaling to go through that stuff. And I really like, with journaling, I did this a lot on the trail, I do it a lot in general when I'm not on the trail, to use it to follow a line of inquiry, like, you know, like, I find it useful to start with like something that bugs me, and like this is something I've noticed I've been doing that really bugs me, and it's like, why do I do that? Do I feel like I do this for that reason?
Okay, I see.
No. Do I feel like I do it for that reason? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Why do I do
Okay,
it for that reason?
And you're working through it as you write.
Yeah, and it's just, it's not impossible, but it's hard to go through that process without writing it down. It takes a lot of concentration. It's essentially like study or meditation, it's focus. And journaling just helps with that.
The reason I ask is because I also journal every day as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's been, I want to say 640 something days.
How good.
Yeah, and at first it was very much so like, today I went to school, then I came home. And what I've noticed is I did it actually digitally, so I did it on my laptop, and it would show me like a year ago what I wrote.
Cool.
And so seeing, just like reading back a year ago, I'm like, okay, on this day this happened. There's some high moments and there's some low moments for sure. But just seeing those where it's so much reflection, and I can look back and I can say, okay, 3 years ago I was here, but now this is on this day, through the years I've progressed, like through that. And so that's always it. The one thing happened recently is my computer just like crashed out of nowhere. Like I spilled some water in it and it was like turning on and off. The one thing I was scared, I was like, the only thing I need from that is that journal. I could care less about any of the pictures. I could care less about the homework that I have on there. I just need that. And so I was able to get it. And then now I have a backup. But that was one of the things especially when my computer's in that dead and almost alive phase, I was like, I need that journal, my friend. I need that journal.
Super cool.
But yeah, no, I journaling has helped me, and I think if you're really in a spot where you need to do some self-reflection, I think journal is great for everyone. I want to transition from walking New Zealand to now home sweet Canada. What was that transition like?
In terms of the decision making?
The decision making, yeah. So you walked the trail, you had an amazing time, you probably learned so many lessons about yourself, made amazing connections with the world, saw amazing scenery that you will never see in the world, because New Zealand's beautiful.
Yeah.
And now, what's the decision-making process?
Running across Canada. So it is very much a continuation of the walking the length of New Zealand. I was after walking New Zealand, I was living in Austria. I moved there because I wanted to learn German.
Actually, can I ask you what the last day was like on the trail before we dive into that?
Oh, mate, magic. Sad, happy, just euphoric. And it's just cracking because you're walking south for like 5 months and then you get to the end of New Zealand and it's like the next stop, if I get on a boat and keep going, it's Antarctica. It's just great. It's just the sense of completion and pride, satisfaction, and it was wonderful. It was one of the greatest days of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, there was when you do something like that, it's pretty impossible to be the same person at the end as you were at the start. It's pretty hard to even be anywhere near the same person.
I can only imagine it. Oh wow. Okay, so now you're in Austria. You know, you've done the biggest feat in your life. You've changed dramatically. You're in Austria. What now?
Yeah, in Austria, learning German, really enjoying it, and I was there because it appealed to a lot of the values I decided I wanted to orient my life around more.
Yeah.
So I was really happy and satisfied there doing that. But then after a while, I just started to get the itch again. I thought there was an opportunity, and I wanted to do more of what I had begun walking the length of New Zealand in terms of that like long-term adventures.
Yeah.
But I thought, the first time in New Zealand was wonderful. But I suspected a lot of it might just be sort of that first time, like your first love. Maybe there's a bit of that element going on. So I figured if I was going to do something else, I thought it would need more of an element, or it would need something else to be sustaining. Otherwise, it might feel a bit empty. If it's just like, oh well, I'm just doing another trail. So I wanted to combine it. I figured if I would do something, it would need an element of more depth to it and something a bit more meaningful about it. So I thought, doing it in service of others is a way to cross that bridge. And I'd read a book about the first person that ever ran across Canada without a support team. And it was only 10 years or so ago. And I read that and I was just done for. I was like, I got to do this now. Like,
was the decision like after you read it instant?
Nah. So as I read it, I was sort of telling myself like, I'm just reading this out of interest. This is not a blueprint.
That's studying how to do it.
My self-deception was not very good. But yeah, like the further I went on, it just built up, and after a while I was like, oh man, like I'm done for. Like I have to go and give this thing a try. Like, because it was like there was this opportunity. I was like, I'm 32 years old. I've got right now no children. I'm not financially totally set, but I'm also not, the student loan's gone. I'm not totally struggling. I've got, financially there's the opportunity to go and do this. So, physically, relationship wise, financially, it's like there's this window now, who knows how long it will last. If you want to go and do something like this, it's now. And like, the reason I was in Germany was studying with the plan to go to university in Germany after that. And I was like, well, that's always going to be there. This window's not. And it wasn't such a leap of faith as the first one. It was just quite continuous.
Yeah, because you already took that giant leap of faith.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And the only difference this time was scale.
Yeah, you're just going bigger and better.
Yeah, it's same vibe, just bigger.
Nice. Was there any other places besides Canada, or once you read that book, you're like, okay, Canada's the way to go?
Nah, there wasn't really. Like I've always had other visions and dreams of things of similar adventures I'd like to do.
Uh-huh.
I'd really love to run across China. As an example of one.
Yeah.
I'd really love to explore Greenland with my own 2 feet. But no, it was Canada. It had to be Canada.
Yeah.
And that was because of like the cause with mum and dad having passed from cancer. Like the cause meant a lot to me to do it in service of advancing the cause of cancer research.
Yeah, of course.
And knowing, like Terry Fox's story reached down home even when he ran back in 1980, let alone these days with the internet.
Yeah.
So I knew about his story. I knew that if I chose Canada, like because of not just Terry Fox, but because of how much Canadian society has got behind Terry Fox's cause in the years since he passed.
Yeah.
It's a growing thing. It's like nearly $1 billion raised now.
It's everywhere. In the schools, we do a Terry Fox Foundation every year. We do a Terry Fox run every year, and we raise so much. And cancer research here, as well as a bunch of other research for a lot of different causes. Like in Canada, even when I was in school and I was in science, like it's phenomenal the amount of things that Canada does. And I was shocked as a Canadian myself.
Wow.
I was shocked, but let alone now you're here and you're doing it for this cause.
Yeah.
What was the first day? I asked you the first day of the New Zealand trip.
First day was something else. Man, St. John's, Newfoundland in early May, especially this May. It was a cold May out there. I don't know. It was so exhilarating.
Are you excited on the first day? Like adrenaline's there. Like you're not actually feeling the weight of what you're doing yet, or did you know that this one's gonna be a while?
Nah, it was too long.
Okay.
It's too big of a challenge to really comprehend. Like, Newfoundland will be like this, Quebec will be like this,
like planning it through.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
It's too far.
Uh-huh.
It was just, it was pretty gung ho. Like, I was pretty thorough on some of the elements of the preparation, and like, safety and equipment and things like that. But in a lot of the ways of prep, I was not. It was just don't overthink it, otherwise you'll never do it. Just get there, dive in, start running.
Yeah.
And so I started from the Terry Fox statue on Water Street in St. John's, down by the harbour.
Saw the picture of that. That you took there, yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I was nervous, man. Like the night, not outwardly nervous, not like shaking or anything, but like, so I put a blog post about this actually. Like the day before I started, I was at an Outfitters in St. John's in Newfoundland, buying a bit of gear, and I'd done like all this prep that needed to be done. It was largely done, and it was like the afternoon of the day before starting. And so it was sort of like the calm before the storm. And I'd bought the last thing I needed to get, which was like this inflatable insulated air mattress. And so I was like, okay, everything's ready, some chill out time, I suppose. Still walking around the store, and this like song that I hadn't heard, sort of like a pop song from back in like 2010 when I was like with my first girlfriend, came on the radio, and I hadn't heard that song since then.
What song?
Boston by Augustana.
Okay, I don't know it.
Comes on the radio in the store, and I'm just like, why is this coming on now? Because immediately I heard it, and I just had like these cozy, like, sitting on the couch watching a movie with your girlfriend sort of vibes from like back in 2010, which is when I had last heard that song, and like all of those sorts of like cozy, like go home and get comfortable, those sorts of vibes were just like flooding my head, and I was like, why is this song on now? Why am I feeling this now? And it's totally I think that it was because I was standing on the precipice of the next morning I was due to be taken off on this big mission, and I was deep down, I was just like really apprehensive.
Can you talk to me about the struggles and when they started? How far in did they start, and what were they?
Of this run?
Of this run, of the across.
Yeah, most of the challenges of this run have been injury, like physical injury.
Yeah.
There's never at all been any days where I've wanted to stop and quit or whatever. And I think that's because of, the answer to your first question, or the second, which was like the why, basing it around the values. And so that's always made sure that the drive is really good, that fire keeps burning and stuff. But in terms of the physical, just massive tendonitis. I'm currently carrying like 7 cases of tendonitis, 7 of the different joints and ligaments and stuff around my legs. And the first one started like in the second week coming through Newfoundland.
Are you worried about like long-term implications or?
No. Like that side of things was one of the elements that I did my homework pretty well on.
Okay.
Thankfully, coincidentally, my best mate is like a very, very good physiotherapist he's like the New Zealand Paralympic team.
Okay, cool.
And so we had a few chats beforehand about what to expect. And outside of actually any incidents of like stepping on a rock and, rolling your ankle or whatever, he said it's just going to be overuse injuries. It's just going to be tendonitis. That's mostly it. And he was bang on. It's it's 5,000 k's down.
Yeah.
7 perhaps 8 cases of tendonitis, and nothing else really.
Damn. What was it like hitting Thunder Bay and going past Terry Fox's? Yeah.
It was the biggest moment. Thunder Bay is the spiritual heart of any cross-Canada adventure. And as well as that element of it, it's the ending point of the hardest, the physically hardest. Like you're running around the top of Lake Superior.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
It gets flat now.
Yeah.
It's going to be flat for a while.
Yeah.
You're not going to see any. You're going to be like, oh, this is boring. Especially coming from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Walking this, you're going to see just wheat, barley, and that's all you're going to see, my friend.
Yeah.
But sorry to cut you off.
No, it's that Thunder Bay time was a huge moment. It was the day before, 24 hours before I was due to arrive at the Terry statue. I was 100 k's away and got there on time, and I hadn't taken a break in a long time, and then it's so hilly around there. It's so isolated through there past like Wawa and White River and stuff, and getting to the statue that I'd always like seen on online videos and stuff. It was magic.
How did the story pick up? Was it intentional that you wanted to document throughout?
In terms of on social media?
On social media,
yeah. I originally wanted to not do much because before this I didn't have social media. I hadn't had a smartphone for like a year. I was really life was good, in terms of that nice still pace of still headspace and everything.
Wow.
But I got them both. I got pretty much all the social media accounts you can get, plus a smartphone, specifically for this, and for the sole purpose of administrating the fundraiser.
Yeah.
And knowing that the best way to get a fundraiser out there in this day and age is with social media. So.
That's how we heard of you, actually. That's how we heard of you.
And without that, and it's picked up well through that, and like largely through TikTok.
Yeah.
Without that, at the start I tried to just do it through a blog and Instagram, and like I was wanting very much to just have it all written Instagram content, because I wanted to. I suppose it was just a personal value of mine. Like I'm pretty anti social media, anti like, you know, brain rot, all of that short attention spans. And I thought, you know, if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna do the fundraiser and use social media to help grow it, or at least maybe if I can do like written content and, you know, sort of take people to a space through the medium of writing, it requires a bit more concentration, and that can be a good thing. Didn't work. Yeah, by the time I was on about week 3, a lot of people were saying like, man, you got to get on TikTok if you want reach.
Videos,
and it's worked crazy. It's worked really, really well, and just the further I've been going, it's just been picking up.
What's it like seeing the success, or like just the start of it? Because you still got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's really fun. I try not to give it too much more importance than just being a good bit of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what your day looks like?
That's hectic, man.
From like start to finish, like morning routine, like wake up. Like, can I ask you what that looks like?
Yeah, it's heckers. So, like, alarm 4:45, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yoga, or stretching. Strap up my feet with tape, like hockey tape, to like immobilize the joints and support plantar fasciitis, which is in my foot. An ordinary day would be like, if I've pitched my tent like next to anywhere that's got food, like a restaurant or whatever, going to get like a breakfast or something, bit of food, or otherwise just cook up some porridge in my little camp stove. Confirm the weather is still the same as the forecast said it was the day before, and suss out what I need to do clothing wise, and then get out and run. Ordinarily it'd be a 50k day, and at the moment, sort of like since the Sioux, it's like check where the towns are, because it's all pretty isolated now. Back through like the Maritimes in southern Ontario, it was like, who cares, just run, because there's towns all the time, and it's warm. But like now it's like, okay, just make a plan, check where the towns are, okay, I'll resupply here, or there's an SO there, I'll go in and warm up and get a cup of tea. And then get out and do the miles. I normally break the 50k down into like 12 or 20k chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, go out and do that. I'm just eating Cliff bars, like granola bars, to get through it. And I normally take like a big break after about 20k. I'll, maybe a good couple of hours. Then get out, do it again in the afternoon, try and get the whole thing done. I'm pretty strict actually these days on getting the whole thing done before it gets dark, because it's not very safe with the cold weather and the ice. And then it's changed a bit, but up until pretty much like Thunder Bay, I would then pitch my tent, get inside, cook up some dinner on my little camp stove again, like a dehydrated meal. And then get into all of the video making and stuff that I had to do from that day that I've been recording. Chuck that up online. Turn off my Strava on my phone that's been recording the route for the day. Share some stuff on social media about the day, and then conk out, set the alarm, do it all again tomorrow. The only difference that's changed since Thunder Bay is that a lot more now people have been taking me in and hosting me. So instead of the tent at the end, it's go inside, meet some people, and do all of that sort of things.
So it's just you.
Yeah.
Just you.
The last like 7 or 8 days, a social media supporter who's been following me since Newfoundland, lives in Calgary. He took 2 weeks off work, came out, drove out with his minivan, met me on the roadside, and he's been accompanying me. Not like really running support, like I still push the baby stroller and everything, but just company, just lets me know how far I've run, because my watch is crap, it's broken, I don't use it. Yeah, don't have a Garmin or anything. So yeah, he just comes and support. Yeah.
Wow.
Chats, spends time, and buys me cups of tea and things like that. And we just hang out. It's awesome to have him with me at the moment. His name's Jon Daly. He's an awesome guy. And yeah, so he'll be with me until this Saturday, and then when I get through to Calgary, hopefully in about 3.5 weeks, I'm gonna plan to stay with him there for a couple of days as well.
Wow, that's so admirable, dude. That's so admirable. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to ask you this one question before we wrap up. If you had any advice to give to anyone in all your experiences that you've been through, and you'd want one piece of advice or lesson that people should take out of your run in your life, what would that be?
And I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice. If I could, like a way that feels good to frame it for myself is like if I could give myself advice from a few years ago.
Sure, yeah.
It would be to really remember, like to I'm trying to think of a way to say it without sounding cliche, but that lesson that I learned, that I was talking about before with Tess, with the lady with cancer and stuff, just to not just have it as like an interesting little thought, but like really concentrate hard on, remember the fact like I am going to die, and it might be soon, it might be when I'm 100, or it might be on the car ride home right now. Like that's a real thing. It's not just a fun little exercise. Because that makes everything so much more meaningful. It makes everything so much more beautiful. And yeah, it's an uncomfortable thought, but it's also real. And that might be the one little detriment, but the benefits that come from like actually digging into that and remembering that and orienting life accordingly, they're big benefits.
All right, guys. Thank you, Jon. Thank you so much for spending this time and sharing your story.
Pleasure.
If you guys want to donate to the cause, it's on jonnabbs.com.
Yeah.
And we'll link it in the description as well. Yeah, if you're struggling out there, if you need something, reach out, ask for help, and thank you, Jon. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks
Until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Peace. Cheers. That's it. That's it. Appreciate you, man.